Hey folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Leeds have just come off the back of a very creditable victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers, beating them 3-1 at Wolves' ground, mind you, this last weekend just gone. And I thought to myself, okay, this is a decent start in the Premier League for Leeds. Looking at it at face value, probably only 1 point less than we deserve at this point, and that's just purely down to the fact that we ended up conceding a very unlucky own goal against Fulham. So we're currently on 7 points, and it's quite a promising start. We've only been hammered once, and that was against a team that anyone could get hammered against, and that's Arsenal. So I don't read too much into that. And so far, Leeds have looked pretty good, certainly from a defensive point of view. Outside of that Arsenal game where we lost 5-0, we've actually only conceded 2 goals. And since scoring that very well taken penalty from Lucas Metra in the first game against Everton, we hadn't actually scored any goals, but we had kept it tied to the back, meaning that we secured a very good draw against Newcastle, and obviously we got the 3 points against Everton, and we got the 3 points just recently against Wolves. So probably should be on 8 points, as we did deserve a draw against Fulham. But it is what it is. So, with this in mind, it's getting a bit chilly now. You can tell we're not in summer anymore. Oh, me adjusting my jacket has adjusted my cat. She's now jumped off. So I just thought to myself, let's have a look at what Leeds have got coming up. So this is on the Leeds website. Unfortunately, we have got another international break coming up, I believe, between the Tottenham and Burnley game. Because there's a bit of a gap there, isn't there? Every other game seems to be on a weekly basis. Apart from that, I hate international breaks. They're boring. I love my club football. I couldn't give a monkeys about international football at all. Couldn't care less. If the entire England team was made up entirely of Leeds United players, well, maybe, but that'll never happen. So let's have a look at what Leeds have got coming up. Firstly, we've got a home match. We're back at Ellen Road, which will be good. We've had a couple of away games recently, so this will be nice. So we are at Ellen Road, and we have got a tougher than what it looks match against Bournemouth. Bournemouth have started the season really well, find themselves in the top quarter of the Premier League right now, position-wise. And this is despite them losing some of their key players in the summer transfer window. They've obviously replaced them and have made a very good start. Their manager, Iraola, was a manager who Leeds were rumoured to be targeting some time ago. If I remember right, I think it was just before we got Farke. Possibly even slightly earlier than that. Might have been just before we got relegated. But since he's joined Bournemouth, he's done very well, and he's turned them into a bit of a force. So this match ain't going to be easy, but Leeds at home have looked very, very solid. Very difficult to beat. So despite the really good start from Bournemouth, I'm going to predict a draw in that one. I think maybe 1-1. Don't know. Just got a sneaky feeling on that one. I think we might nick a draw. If we did lose it, it wouldn't surprise me because of the start Bournemouth have had. But we have proved that we can be quite difficult to play against. And at home, if we assume that, because Bournemouth are quite far down south, so if we assume that Bournemouth won't bring a massive number of fans, there's going to be, comfortably over 30,000 Leeds fans, as Ellen Road currently holds about 37,000, and it could be even more Leeds fans at Ellen Road for that one. So I think there's every chance that we can nick a draw on that one. But I am very conscious of the fact that Bournemouth's start to the season has been very good, despite the fact that they have lost some really key players from last season. So, that then completes September, and if we can get a draw from that, then it's not been a terrible month, has it really? Moving on to October. There's only 3 games in October, and again it's partly due to this stupid international break. But it starts off with a tough one against Tottenham Hotspur. Now, last season Tottenham finished in an incredibly low position of 17th, and if it wasn't for the fact that the bottom 3 were so rubbish, the Spurs would have been relegated. I think they finished on about 38 points, pretty bad. And this cost Postecoglou his job there. But they recruited the former Brentford manager Thomas Frank. And Frank seems to be getting a tune out of them, unfortunately. So, even though we're at home, I think the best result we can hope for is a draw in that one. There is a possibility we can beat Bournemouth with us being at home, but 12:30 kickoffs have never really been that great for Leeds in the past, and against a team that's in good form in Tottenham, even though we're at home, I think the best we can hope for is a draw on that one. Going to be a very hard match. I mean, Leeds in the past, bar maybe 1 or 2 situations, have actually done okay against teams that have been expected to wallop us in years gone by. But it's all been dependent on who's been managing us at the time and the kind of squad that we've had. I mean, again, we've got, come the Tottenham match, we need to see what kind of shape we're in terms of injuries. Lucas Perry might still be out, albeit he's rumoured to be expected to be available at least to train come October. Dan James and Willian Onto, we don't know how long those two are going to be out for. And in the last match against Wolves, Jayden Bogle hobbled off with a foot injury after he got stamped on. That didn't look good. That looked like he was in a lot of pain. Now obviously Daniel Farker will hopefully be asked as to what the condition of Jayden is, and there will have been a couple of days for Leeds to get him assessed. Henry McStay and the rest of the medical team will be looking into that, and I mean, hopefully, it might just be the case that he's only out for maybe, I don't know, a couple of weeks, maybe just up until the international break. But if it is serious, I mean, he could be out for longer, and that'd be dodgy. Bogle's been one of our better players this season. He's had a good start. He provided the cross for the Calvert-Lewin goal. Peach of a cross, to be fair. So we're then going to be looking at the likes of James Justin and Sam Byram, to be filling those fullback voids if Bogle's out for any length of time. So I think, as much as I hate betting against Leeds United. I always try and stay as positive as I can do. But with the form Tottenham are in, we have to hope that they've got a couple of key injuries by then, or key suspensions. But if I am to take any solace from anything regarding this, we played Manure, Villarreal and AC Milan in pre-season, and we drew with all of them. So this begs the question, is there any possibility we can maybe nick a draw against Tottenham? Maybe. Different scenario. Those 3 matches were friendlies. This is a competitive Premier League match. So, as much as I hate to say it, I think we might lose it. I mean, if we play against Tottenham the way we played against Arsenal, not a hope in hell. I would put Tottenham down for a 3-0 win on that one. On the basis that Arsenal match, 2 of those goals were preventable. At least 2 of them. If we keep it nice and tight, like we have against Everton and Newcastle, and for the most part against Fulham and Wolves, could we sneak a draw? Maybe. I don't know. Am I being too optimistic there? It'd be great if we could. But again, if we do lose to Tottenham, as long as we perform okay, I mean, I know that this season is all about the points. We could play like a shower of shite all season, and as long as we've got the points, that's all that really matters. And then next season you can build on adding a bit of extra quality to the squad, and a bit of extra quality to the style of play that we use, things like that. But for this season, the crucial thing is getting those points on the board as quickly as we possibly can. While there's 2 or 3 of these clubs that are struggling, like Wolves, as a prime example, we have to take advantage of that. That's what we did at the weekend. We took advantage of Wolves being in really bad form, and credit to Leeds' players. We put them to the sword. We scored 3 very good goals. And to do that away from home in Premier League when we've only just kind of rejoined the league, relatively recently, I like it. I like it. We haven't looked, apart from the Arsenal game, we haven't looked out of place. We haven't looked like we don't belong in the Premier League. As I say, apart from that Arsenal game, which was just pants from top to bottom. All the other games, Leeds have looked defensively solid. They look competitive. And they look like they can gain points. Which is great. That's what I want. That's what I want to see from Leeds. I've seen how bad the 6 teams were that got relegated. The points totals are so pathetic, it's unreal. So if Leeds can get something, kind of against the run of play, if you like, if we get anything against Tottenham, it'd be classed as against run of play, wouldn't it, really? So yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out and say draw against Bournemouth. I think we might lose against Tottenham, but there's no disgrace in it. They're a good team at the moment, so they're much better this season than what they were last season. They're kind of back to the Tottenham that have, at the very least, been top half every season for God knows how many now. And that's despite losing Son, the Korean international. You know what I mean? He's a damn good player, and he's left them to this season, but they've obviously recovered. So let's move on to a pair of claret and blue matches. It's a shame we don't play. It's a shame that we don't play Aston Villa after the West Ham match. Would have played against all three claret and blues in a row there, that are currently in the Premier League. And ironically, recently we just played against the under-21s. Just played against Scunthorpe, who also play in claret and blue. So there you go. Anyway, aside from the colours, Burnley. Now, my friend Chris, he's a Burnley fan, and he actually took us to see Leeds under-21s against Burnley under-21s, and Leeds actually ended up winning that one at Turf Moor. Got to be the most weird feeling that I have ever felt at a football match. That every time Leeds scored, I had to just sit down and not celebrate. That was weird, because all fans were sat in just one stand, and for the majority it was Burnley fans. I was like, oh boy, felt like I were in Lions Den there. I'm not talking Millwall. So yeah, that was weird. But in terms of the first team, now Leeds will be away at Burnley. Burnley have had a bit of a hit and miss start. They are, I think, currently 17th, so they are just out of the relegation zone. But again, they've started okay. For a newly promoted side, they've started okay. And as I say, they're not in the bottom three. They are the worst of the current three teams that have just come up, certainly position-wise and points-wise. But it's very, very close right now. The points gap between Sunderland and Leeds and Burnley is minimal, very small. As I say, we're not that many games in, and that's why. So, what can Leeds do against Burnley? Obviously, last season Burnley were known for their rock-solid defence, and Leeds were known for their really potent attack. But Burnley did get the better of us, unfortunately. I think it was they got a 1-0 win, and that was due to a slip from Solomon that allowed Koleosho to speed in and get a goal. And then I think it were a bore draw, the other match. I think that finished 0-0. Really boring. But this season's going to be a bit different. Both clubs have made new signings. Both clubs have lost a couple of players. I mean, in fairness to Leeds, in terms of the major outgoings, I mean, we didn't keep either Solomon or Rothwell, and Junior Firpo left. Now, Junior Firpo has been replaced by Gabriel Gudmundsson, who I think looks a very good left back. Very, very good. I'm impressed with that signing so far. For somewhere between 10 and 11 million pounds, I think that's a steal. At this level, at Premier League level, I think that's a steal. So we've replaced Firpo. Midfield, I think Rothwell's been replaced by, like you could say, either Longstaff or Stack, couldn't you really? And then Solomon, we've replaced him with Okafor. So we've kind of replaced the three starting or first team squad players that we lost from last season. So I don't think that's an issue. Burnley have obviously made a couple of signings themselves, brought in the extremely experienced Kyle Walker, and they'll need all of his experience for this season going forward. But they lost a couple of key players. So from that extremely tight defensive backline, they lost the goalkeeper Trafford. he should have gone to Old Trafford, shouldn't he, really? But he went to their neighbours, Man City, who is where he originally came from, apparently. They've replaced him with the veteran goalkeeper from Newcastle, Dubravka. And they lost CJ Egan-Riley, who I think went to Marseille on a free. And again, you could argue maybe they've replaced him with Walker, which is a massive age, like two ends of the age spectrum. I think Egan-Riley were like 22, 23. And Walker's about, what, 34, 35? Something like that. You could say it's similar about the goalkeeper as well, actually. Dubravka's really old now. I think he's like 35, 36. And obviously Trafford were, what, 22, 21, 22. So again, they've kind of, they lost a couple of young players from that back line, but and they've replaced them with highly experienced replacements, haven't they? And they brought in a few other players, but I'm not really seeing, that many kind of game changer players, if you like. And as I say, Burnley, well, they've been reasonably competitive so far from what I can tell. I haven't really watched any of Burnley or anything, I'm just going off the results on the Premier League table. But so far they've done okay. I mean, they beat Sunderland, and yet ironically Sunderland are comfortably above Burnley in the table. I think that match finished 2-0 to Burnley as well. The scoreline's, reasonably convincing. But I really do feel that Burnley, being another newly promoted team like Leeds, even though it's at Turf Moor, I think Leeds have to target this one as one that they really should be trying to win. I mean, Farke will always come out and say, and he'll always say that he always sets Leeds up to try and win every match. We know that this is not 100% true. Like, he's obviously always hoping to win. But you can't tell me with this highly defensive setup that Leeds have been set out to actually, really physically go for that win. Get on the front foot, get the possession of the ball, and get those attacks in. And Farke won't. Farke will never. He'll never say otherwise. Farke will always say that he sets Leeds up to try and win a match. And I, to an extent, I don't mind what Farke has done so far. He's kept the team in a very tight defensive unit, so that we're not getting walloped. Aside from, Arsenal. We're in the game at all times, against every other opposition we've had so far. So I think we target a win against Burnley. We have to, because their squad ain't going to be like the other 17 squads that, aside, take Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland out of the equation, the other 17 squads are going to be established and, in theory, higher quality squads. So Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland, from a squad point of view, should be on a similar level. So this really is one that we need to target, because we're not going to get that many away wins this season. Getting an away win against an established Wolves team, we've got that because Wolves are struggling. So that to me is, that was Leeds taking a very good opportunity. What if Wolves pick up form later in the season? Wolves might be a bit higher up in the table for all we know. They might not be. They didn't look that good. They didn't look that good at all against Leeds, and Leeds capitalised. So yeah, for me, we have to take the win. against Burnley. If we don't, it's a missed opportunity. Even though it's away from Ellen Road, even though it's at Turf Moor, I don't think there's any excuses. I think we have to, we really have to win that one. And then finally in this block of 4, we come back to Ellen Road again. It's nice that we've got 3 home games in the next 4 matches. That's a good thing. Because I say at Ellen Road we've looked very, very good, very solid, very difficult to beat, which is going to be a pain in the backside for any of our opposition. And we're going to be coming up against West Ham, who, like Wolves, have struggled this season. Now, part of the thinking behind everything at West Ham is going to be whether Karen Brady sticks to her words that she spoke about on TalkSport a little while ago, when she basically gave West Ham manager Graham Potter the vote of confidence. Now, if Graham Potter is still the West Ham manager by the time Leeds play them on the 24th of October at Ellen Road, I think this is another one that Leeds have to target a win, because again, we're going to get you would expect Leeds will get most of their points and most of their wins at Ellen Road this season. Away from Ellen Road it could be tougher. But there is also argument that West Ham have played a bit better away from London Stadium than what they have at their new home ground. Well, relatively new at least. I still remember them being at Upton Park, quite frankly. Apparently there's a few folks saying that West Ham don't like it there. It's more of an athletics or an Olympic style stadium rather than a football stadium. So I don't know, but I still feel that at home at Ellen Road, if West Ham are still struggling at that point, and if they've still got Graham Potter in charge, this is another one that Leeds can target to win. Vitally important. Based on how the season has started, I'm looking at these 4 fixtures and I'm thinking to myself, if we can somehow nick a draw against Bournemouth, we might lose against Tottenham, but then if we can beat Burnley and West Ham, that's 7 points out of the next 4 games, which, if memory serves me right, would put us on 14 points. Now that to me would feel really good, for that stage of the season. It's still, even then it's still quite early on, but it's around a quarter of the season gone by that point, roughly. So, if that's the case, and if we've, even if we've got 10 points a quarter of the way through the season, that to me is not a disaster. Because I think that if we get 40 points, so if we get 10 wins and 10 draws this season, I think we stay up. I reckon it might be as low as 17th, but I reckon it's enough to stay up. And I think we can do it. I really do. I was a bit concerned about how we would do against certain teams this season, and so far Daniel Farker and those Leeds players and the rest of Farker's coaching staff, everyone involved at Leeds United, all the staff are doing their bit, and they're doing pretty well so far. You look at the players the new players we've signed. Gudmundsson, for me, best signing we've made. I think he's a very, pound for pound, in terms of what we've spent and the output that we've had so far. Alright, he got the own goal. Come on. If anyone holds him purely responsible for that own goal, it's crap luck, isn't it? The direction he's standing in, there's no right for that ball to go towards the Leeds goal. He's not facing the goal. He's not, the momentum's not going towards the Leeds goal. It's a really bizarre own goal. But you take that out of his game, and again, everyone played crap against Arsenal. But you take those 2 moments out of the season so far, and Gudmundsson's played every single match up to this point, and he looks a good player. He really does. Like, if you were looking for the ideal replacement for Junior Firpo, I think we've got him. I think Gudmundsson's a damn good replacement for Junior Firpo. Nothing against Junior either. He had 2 very good seasons in the Championship this last 2 seasons gone, but we needed an upgrade, and I think we've got one. Like, Gudmundsson was so good against Wolves. Like, he was getting down line, he was getting crosses into the box. He defensively sound. Yeah, good player. I'm really enthused to see how Gabby gets on for the rest of the season. Anton Stark. I mean, the fella has got off to a very good start, hasn't he? Got a goal and an assist. Bullet of a free kick. Some people saying Sarr maybe should have saved it because his positioning was not all that far away from where the ball nestled up in back at net. Well, I think the sheer power would have made it very difficult for any goalkeeper. Even goalkeepers better than Sarr. And the Stack just looks like he can do a bit of everything, doesn't he? He can tackle, he can shoot, he can head, he can pass. He's not even slow for a guy that's around 6'4". You know what I mean? He's a big dude, but he can certainly move across the pitch all right as well. He can do a bit of everything, Stack. And again, for the price around £18 million, I don't think that's a bad buy. The way things have gone so far, at least. Anyway, I think it's a good signing. And again, obviously we've made other signings as well, but those 2 really are sticking out nicely. I really thought Okafor was starting to show some good moments as well against Wolves. I know he's still got 1 or 2 bits of his game that he can improve on. To get up to the level we need him to be, but that finish was a very cool finish, wasn't it? It was a striker's finish with confidence. He's a left winger. Let's just put it out there. That was a really composed finish from Okafor, and that's the kind of stuff we need from him. So there's a lot of promising signs with these new players that are starting to get game time now. There's some of them that haven't had a lot of game time, so you can't judge them. The likes of 3 of the back 4. Be all Bornau and Justin. You can't judge any of those yet. They haven't played. They've just had smattering of minutes here and there. Albeit Justin might get some game time soon if Bogle's injured. Perry started in goal, but Darlow's been solid the last couple of games. So even when Perry gets fit, is it a guarantee that Perry comes back into the team? I don't know. He was signed for £15 million. I mean, you're not gonna sit him on bench permanently, are you? As long as Darlow keeps doing what he's doing. I'm always a bit worried about Darlow, but he is proving the doubters wrong at the moment, there's no doubt. He's doing alright. I think out of all this, if we target wins against Burnley and West Ham, damage limitation against Tottenham, if we can get a win or a draw, I'm absolutely stoked if we get a result against Tottenham. That'd be brilliant. And then I think there's a good chance of at least a draw against Bournemouth. Any of these 4 teams could beat us. Let's just put it out there. I'm a Leeds fan. I want us to do well. I want us to get wins and draws. I don't want us to get losses. But they've got to be realistic. This is Premier League now, not Championship. These matches are going to be tougher. Without a doubt, I think that we can target target the Burnley and West Ham matches for wins. Even if West Ham lose Potter, even if they have an interim manager or a caretaker manager, the damage is done at that point, isn't it? As long as they haven't appointed someone better by then, I think they're there for the taking. And even though the Burnley game's away, I think Burnley are there for the taking too. We've got to capitalise on these teams that are either at the bottom of the league or the likes of Burnley and Sunderland that came up with Leeds this time around. So, let's just have a look at the Premier League table. I don't know why there's... is that European segregation? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's a Bournemouth of 4th. Bloody hell. Didn't realise it'd be that... I knew they were high up. I knew they were top 5. I didn't realise they were quite as high as 4th. Look at Liverpool. I know. Oh, God. They haven't lost out yet, have they? But yeah, there, as you see, Leeds, currently 12th position. Doing well. Doing very well. We've had a couple of tough fixtures in there. Most people would have had, Leeds to have, lost that middle one there, which was the draw against Newcastle. And I really feel that loss there should have been a draw. That match against Fulham. But to get wins against Everton, who have picked up since, Everton are 10th now, just above Leeds a couple of places. And, to beat Wolves, okay, Wolves are, struggling. Right down there. But, look at it all, like, as I say, West Ham. They're not doing very well. 1 win in 5 games and 4 losses to boot. That's poor. They've got Everton next. Even Aston Villa haven't won a match yet. They're hobbling along on 3 draws and 2 losses. Yeah, it's surprising, but in terms of where the teams are those 4 teams that we've been talking about, Tottenham are up there. That's why I don't think we get anything from them. You've got a very decent team there. What is that? 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Now look at who they're playing next. They're playing Wolves next. They'll demolish Wolves. I can't see Wolves getting anything against Tottenham there. Bournemouth, our next opponents. All right, they're only 1 position lower than Tottenham. We've got to respect this. They're up there for a reason. 1 loss, 3 wins and a draw. And then, as I said, we talk about the teams that have just been promoted. You've got Sunderland in 7th, which is a little surprising in a way because that loss came against Burnley. But 2 wins, 2 draws. You can't argue. And I say Leeds are picking up. With getting that hammer in against Arsenal. That puts us on a minus. That's -5 in 1 go, and we've just pulled 2 of those back. With that win against Wolves, winning 3-1. So we're in the right direction. We're going in the right direction here. Burnley, as I say, this is one of the teams we're targeting. 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses. Ooh, they've got Man City next. Ugh. Yeah, Man City haven't been amazing this season, have they? But it's Man City. They should have oodles of quality to knock Burnley off the bloody park, really, shouldn't they? And again, Burnley have conceded goals this season. They conceded 8. So they're not as watertight as they were last season. But again, you're coming up against better quality. Now, as I say, West Ham, very bad start for them. Only 1 win, 4 losses, 13 goals conceded. That's massive. If Leeds can take advantage of that, and they should be capable, then this is why I'm saying let's target West Ham as well, because that ain't good. So as we said, we've got West Ham, Burnley, and then the teams in 4th and 3rd, Bournemouth and Tottenham. So a mixed bag. 2 near the bottom and 2 near the top. So let's see how we do. But again, as I say, if we draw against Bournemouth, if we expect to lose against Tottenham, and then we get 2 wins against Burnley and West Ham, that's 7 points. So if you add that 7 points to what we have currently on, which is the number in bold, so we'd be on 14. I mean, at this stage, so 4 games back, there's only Liverpool that's got more than that. So, being on 14 points after the next 4 fixtures, I don't think we're going to be any worse off position-wise than what we're in at the moment. I really don't. I think we would stay. I think there's a chance of being in top half after that, if we can get that. Because there's every chance we can wipe out this negative goal difference at that point, as long as we don't get tonked by Spurs. We can knock out that negative goal difference. And, an additional 7 points. Put us on 14. Obviously everyone else has got to play, and there'll be plenty of these teams that'll get wins as well. So, I think that'll put us in a good place. I really do. So put your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you think we're going to do in these next 4 games? Do you agree with what I'm reckoning? 1 draw, 1 loss, 2 wins. Is that realistic? Or do you think Leeds might struggle in all of them? Do you think Leeds might do better than that? We'll only know once the matches are played. But I don't know, I'm feeling alright. I'm feeling okay about what we're doing so far. So let's see how we do. But yeah, put your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know. Where do you think we'll win? Where do you think we'll draw? Where do you think we'll lose over these next 4 games? And where do you think we'll be in the Premier League position wise? Dependent on your predictions. Do you think we'll be above 12th? Do you think we'll stay around 12th, or do you think we'll be lower? Comment that in the comments down below as well, please. I'd be really interested to see what you reckon. But I'll leave it there, folks. Quite a lengthy one today, but why not? Big thank you for watching. Do please give the video a thumbs up. The likes and the hypes and subscribes and all this good stuff. I need as much of this as possible at the moment, because myself and all the other content creators on YouTube are currently struggling because YouTube is being a little bit weird. So if you could possibly hit the thumbs up, like, and if you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that'd be massively appreciated. And again, do please put your comments down below, because putting the comments down below again, it feels like it's all algorithm based. And with the issues that YouTube are having at the minute, it would be nice to see things go in a positive direction. So yeah, do please show your support by doing all of those things. If it's free to do, it's not going to take a lot of time, and it really does get appreciated, I promise you. So yeah, there we have it, folks. But Leeds currently in a good spot right now. Still very, very, very early on in the season, but a promising start nevertheless. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.